joining this series of webinars we are looking to run over the next few weeks. I will talk very quickly about why we are running these seminars, just to shed some light. It's not just because a lot of people have been running webinars, but as we recognize that as a church, we constantly continue to do the things we do spiritually, which are the foundations and very important, like our prayer meetings as well as our Sunday services that we are doing. We also want to appreciate that as a community and as a family that are not able to meet physically, that we should also begin to meet virtually to discuss some of the things that happen when a scenario like this happens. At the moment, we're in a very unique and unusual situation of being in lockdown and every family being in isolation. So we don't have the benefit as a church or as a people or as a family meeting physically. So life in isolation is what we have come up with as a family, as a church, is why don't we start to address some of the things that that happen behind closed doors when you're in isolation. And these range from a number of things. They range from anger to money-related issues to career. Everyone is going through different emotions at this time. Everyone is going through different challenges at this time. And what's important is that we recognize that as a group, it's not unique to anybody. And it's also something that we need to talk to so that we can get people who can also come in and just share some insights with us on how to recognize these emotions, these feelings, and sometimes also what we can do to address them to make sure that we deal with this. So anger is an issue that we'll be talking about today. And anger is when you are cooped up in the house with family, friends, or you can't physically go out. Emotions like anger come into it. There are career issues as well, that with the economy changing, the industry shrinking, jobs are impacted as well, which impacts finances as well. So we can also, as a group, also talk about financing. Now, we want to make these sessions quite collaborative because while we have people here who can share and talk to it, also a lot of us here are going through similar things, and we can share in the group some things we've learned or that others can take, or we can just share our personal experiences. And importantly, also ask questions. So we want us all to treat this as a fairly safe environment where you can ask questions. Please don't be under pressure to expose your personal or speak about others, but feel free to contribute and help us learn from each other in this situation. This will be the first of many that we hope to run over this period. At the end of it, please, if you have any feedback, do share with us via the usual WhatsApp group or in the chat box, or directly to myself or the speakers. Share feedback or share anything you would like us to cover in future that you think would be of value to you. As we go along as well, there'll be a time to ask questions. If you want to raise your hand and feel you would like to speak, you can raise your hand by going to the bottom of the screen, and also just when you click on chat, you can chat there and ask a question, or you can click raise your hand and somebody would raise your hand or mute so you can speak up. And in between and towards the end, I'll ask for questions, and that'll be an opportunity where I will cover questions, or if you've raised your hand, we will address it. So that's a very nice intro. Thank you, everyone. So with that said, I would like to introduce our speaker, Deaconess Tutu Oloko. She's an accountant. She's she's a counselor in the church as well. She has experiences, a long experiences of working with people in relationships, mentoring and coaching people as well. So welcome and thank you for taking this opportunity with us, Deaconess Tutu. So the floor is yours, please.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to be sharing with people that I believe we are all members of the same family, and we're all going through challenges that we need to open up to each other and learn from each other. And like Femi said, today we're going to be talking about anger. Um, and which, like I said, the lockdown has had unintended consequences on our lives. I don't think anybody could have predicted that we're going to have a pandemic, or that we're going to be locked in. And even when we were asked that we're going to be locked in, no, I don't think anybody thought of that there's going to be other negative, what I would term negative impacts on our lives. Yet we are all going through those negative impacts. When I was preparing for this, my husband asked me a question. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just sort of trying to prepare something on anger, or reading about anger." And so he said, "But you don't have an anger problem." And I smiled. You think I don't have an anger problem? Yet, and that is probably because everybody deals with anger in different ways. And nobody could have thought about how this lockdown has had an impact on us. And if I think about myself, you're thinking, in this lockdown, we have limited personal space. You're now cooked in your homes with your loved ones, or those who are not loved either, and people that you're not particularly comfortable with, because I'm sure not all of us are with our families. Some we just happen to be where we are. So you've got limited space, opportunity to irritate each other more. We've got expectations on ourselves. For those of us who are parents, we're being asked to teach our children. Now you're taking virtual lessons, you're becoming teachers. You don't have the temperament for it, you don't have the knowledge for it, you're not even interested in doing such things. And such things are creating frustration. You're frustrated, you're anxious, you're fearful about that task and failing your children. And imagine your daughter asking you to do something and you don't even know the answer for it. You're thinking, oh my God. And all of that is creating anger in us. Or for some people, it's just the relentless work. I mean, nowadays you find out that as a mother, you're cooking 3 times a day or 10 times a day. You're cooking all the time, and you're kind of angry. It's like the housework never ends. Your house is in a mess. So different things that you never think of before is just causing the anger in you. You're now short-tempered. You're angry, and it's recognizing that you're angry, because sometimes you don't even realize you're angry. And I'll use myself. I remember talking to my husband. He was in Nigeria, and every time I spoke to him, we end up arguing. So it's like, can't we have a conversation these days without arguing? Then he was in Nigeria, and I had to look inwards and ask myself, why am I angry? Why am I angry? I didn't realize I was angry, but yet I was raising my voice, and every time we argue. So it is actually trying to recognize that these are unusual times, and circumstances beyond us is making us angry. Expectations, stress, pressure, all of these things are the things that are making us angry. And I try to kind of...
Hello, everyone. It's been a pleasure being here. The last 4 days have been a wonderful time in the team. And thanks for everyone for your support.
Can you hear me, or is there something interjecting on the voice?
The process, documents, and how our team interfaces with various teams.
Something that someone else is talking on the phone.
Wonderful, the support and the welcoming that I've had in the last 4 days. It's the best place I've ever been.
Femi, can you see?
And been overwhelmed with the level of welcoming and support I've had in the last 4 days. So thanks everyone for your support. I'll still come around tapping on people's shoulders, trying to understand where things are and how to go about the various processes.
Something is happening. I can't see.
Is the RCG, whoever is hosting, is the one that is aligned their auto bleeding.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Femi, what's up? Femi. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. We're not sure what happened there technically. Okay, so anger can be described as an emotion where you're antagonistic towards somebody for something they've done or something they haven't done. Those are like technical definition, really. But anger is actually a healthy emotion. You're supposed to have you can positively express yourself or negatively express yourself. Your anger becomes a negative expression when the impact on the other person is like you lash out at them, you end up in an abusive relationship, or you abuse them verbally. It's not necessarily beating them up, you abuse them emotionally as well. Those are the different ways we express our anger towards other people in terms of when we're stressed or tired. And we need to recognize what causes anger and how we express our anger. Some people, it's very easy to, like I said, it's very easy to identify that some people are angry because they bottle things up so much, and then after time, they become explosive. They just explode. Their temper just goes out of this world. I mean, and you're thinking as a recipient, what have I said and what have I done that has made them react that way? But and without them actually telling you anything, you will at the receiving end of either an abuse or a tongue lashing. It could be anything. You have people who internalize their anger and they abuse themselves. They kind of think it's my fault. I did this to you. I deserve this. I should have prepared this meal early. I should have done that. And hence they're angry, but they sort of abuse themselves. Some people express their anger through sarcasm. So they're angry when you ask them something, they kind of say, you ask them a question and say, oh, well, the way they come across, you know they're angry. They haven't said they're angry, but you know because of the speech, the way they are. And some don't say anything. So you're either kind of mute, they become reserved, they avoid confrontation, they're quieter, but they are actually boiling inside. And we need to recognize all these different ways that people can get angry and not know that they are. I think we tend to associate anger with the explosive ones, but there are different ways in which we, at this time that we get angry, you get short-tempered. Your daughter does something to you and you literally slap her, not because of what she's done, but because of other things that is going on within you, which I describe as passive aggressiveness. You're aggressive towards them for something completely different, not for what they've done. Or for some people, they're just arbitrarily angry, they're arbitrarily irritated. And it could go back to all sorts of things. But what we're trying to say is that we are in uncharted times. The current situation, the current circumstances that we find ourselves in has a negative impact on us. It's causing us to be more angry. Maybe you're probably somebody who doesn't lash out before. Now you have to stay with your husband for 24 hours in the same house. Maybe your marriage is already going through challenges. Going to the office is your way of getting away from all of this. Now you're stuck indoors with him, looking at him, or not having much space away from him. So those are all the things, all the little trigger points that will make us angry and make us even angrier during this coronavirus lockdown period. And it's important to understand that when you are angry, that anger is actually bad for you. It's bad for your own health. This actually is a medical findings that anger is bad for your system. When you're angry, you release hormones in your systems that are actually bad for you. Some people from their anger, that high blood pressure, they've died from it. They've had heart attack from it because they're that angry at the situation. Anger can cause unintended consequences. You know, because at that point when you are raging, when the anger blinds you, you damn all consequences. Self-conscious, you're not conscious. It's like you're in a trance. You do things that when you calm down and reflect on it later, you're thinking, that is not me. I'm sure some of us were not the same as we were before coronavirus, before the lockdown. Now you're seeing yourself that it's as if, what is wrong with me? Why am I behaving in this way? And your emotions take over your brain. It's like your brain, your emotions is disconnected from your brain. You're not receiving messages from it anymore. It doesn't matter. It's like at that point in time, you're seeing red, your blood pressure is up, your heart is pumping, everything, you just lose control. Anger is when you lose control. But the thing is that you're losing control is a choice. You can choose to be angry, or you can choose to manage your anger. So anger is not something that is beyond us. It is not something that, even in this coronavirus, it's not an excuse. We should not use it as an excuse that, oh, well, after all, we're on unusual terms. Actually, yes, we are in an unusual season, but we can actually channel our energy. And if we resolve that, I'm going to be conscious about this, we can do something about it. Anger makes you lose respect of your family. It makes you lose respect. I mean, can you imagine now you're forever angry, there's forever an outburst, especially around children. That is what they pick up. They think that's the norm. They're fearful, but at the same time, we're molding them because children tend to model what they see adults do around them. So we need to be careful, and we need to be mindful of that, of our emotions at this time. So before I go further, does anybody have any questions? Okay.
This should be a good time. Any questions, contributions?
Okay.
Okay, we can continue.
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay.
So you were talking about people who like keep their anger in.
Yes.
But what about if it's just the case where at the time that's the best response for the situation?
Yes. Really, when you're angry, you should, which will come to later, but when you're angry, you should pause, stop, and just kind of be quiet, because sometimes that time that you take to reflect before you react will help you manage your anger and the way it comes across. And but as long as you recognize that it is something that you will come back to later and say, okay, at this point in time, it is not the right time to talk because I'm so angry, I'm raging, I need to just take time out. And then we can come back and talk. Then we can come back and talk about, why am I angry? What can we do about it? And have a rational conversation. Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, so how do we recognize the signs of anger? I think we are all different when we're angry, and you need to be self-aware of you. You need to know yourself and know what the trigger point is for you. You have to study yourself to be able to predict the way you get angry and how you are going to preempt it. I mean, when I'm angry, it's as if I have a stomach upset. My tummy is churning and my heart is pounding. At that point, I know that I am raging mad. You can't see it externally, but within me, I just have this unease, I just feel uncomfortable in my tummy. Some people, when they're angry, they're snapping at other people. You become short-tempered. Before somebody says something, you snap at them. Or like I said, your heart is beating, or you start raising your voice. You know you're angry, you start raising your voice. Or for some people, their physicality changes. You can see the rage in their eyes. Their eyes go red. They're clenching their fist and they're ready to kill someone. And you become more argumentative, more irritated. Some is like, you just can't control your tongue. You have verbal diarrhea at that point in time. At that point in time, they would say anything. So it is important for us, if you're going to control and manage your anger, for you to be able to understand what happens to me when I'm angry. What are the pointers? The pointers that tells me I am angry now and I need to stop and control this thing. So for us to be able to survive this period and manage a relationship, come out at the other end, we need to identify these things and spend time. This is time that we all have the time now that you have to spend on yourself to know yourself. And once you identify yourself or you know yourself, the next thing is, how do I control my anger? What do I do to control my anger? I think the first step is for you to actually be determined that I am going to manage my anger. You have to have that resolve that I am going to manage this anger. If the anger is within the marriage, you have to resolve within yourself, within your marriage, that at this point in time, we are going to find a way around this pain where we embrace each other, support each other, communicate in a different way that will make this period where we're having to spend time within a confined space a better time, a more helpful time, a more joyous time in our homes. So it has to be a determination, but it has to be a determination from yourself that I want to manage my anger. Because if you don't want to do it, then nothing is going to happen about it. There has to be, and the other thing is, when you're in a situation where you know you're angry, you need to learn to pause, stop, and be quiet. That was what I was saying to the person who asked the question before, that you need to reflect before you react. When I'm angry, when I know I'm really angry, I actually take a deep breath. I literally take a deep breath, and I'm kind of in my mind counting to 10, and I'm taking and breathing in and breathing out and breathing in, and just to calm myself down, because at that point I'm ready to say anything. And it is that reflection, that time that you pause, that kind of that stopping helps you manage yourself and manage your reaction and manage what you say. And the other thing is, we should be quick to listen, because what you find out that when you stop and you're listening more, that time you're using to listen really tempers you down. Your temper goes down. An example is like, can you imagine when you're having an argument with somebody, you're shouting at each other, and a phone call comes at that time, say it's your mom or something, or anybody. Can you imagine, do you know what you do? When you speak to them, you're like, hello, how are you? You don't want them to know you're angry. You don't want them to know you've just been shouting and beating up your wife. At that point in time, you're controlling your voice, you're controlling your tempo. So you can actually manage yourself. You can manage your anger. It's within your control. So it is learning to be quick to listen, slow to speak, by just listening and not reacting and not responding. Sometimes when you're angry, before they say one, you've said 1,000. Just being slow to speak will help lower your anger, will help delay. That delay period helps you analyze and say, okay, let me just calm down here and analyze the situation. Let me ask myself, why am I angry? Why am I this angry? What is going on? I had to ask myself, when my husband told me, Tutu, we're arguing, you just keep arguing with me each time. Why are you angry with me? And I literally had to step back and ask myself. And I know why I was angry. And that's because I had to pause and say, what is going on here? So you need to try and get to the root of your problem. Sometimes the problem is just tiredness. You're just tired, pure tiredness. You're stressed. We're all stressed. We're all under pressure. So when you're at home, you're under pressure. There's so much work to do. It's a time to sit down with your family and say, okay, guys, how are we going to manage the workload here? How are we going to manage responsibility here? So that you're not overstressed. You're not getting angry at your children. when you're frustrated, get to the root of the problem. You're being asked to teach your children. You don't have the temperament. You don't have the know-how. What should I do then? Step back. How can you control that? And it may be as simple as saying to yourself, like my daughter, she's doing virtual school. I don't go near her. I've told her, you have any problem, call your teacher. I'm not here to teach you because I can't do it. I don't have the temperament for it. So you have to see what is causing that frustration and how can you walk around it. And then sometimes it's to redirect your anger. Redirect it to something else. Go for a walk. Go for a jog. Go and cut your garden. Do anything just to redirect that energy into something. And that energy of or beating each other up with your verbal words or physical words, direct it into positively. I mean, any physical activity will actually temper your anger. And more importantly, repattern your mind. It's your thoughts that drives your emotion, that drives your action. So when you have bad thoughts, bad emotion, then you have bad action. So you need to repattern, you reshape the way you think and the way you control your mind. What controls your mind? Your thoughts, your mind. You have to take control because nobody can do that for you. On that basis, I think I should stop so that it gives us time to kind of deliberate and ask each other questions.
Yeah, thank you. You've covered some really, really powerful ones. One of the ones I think I found quite good was the power of knowing yourself. Knowing yourself and how you tend to react. Knowing yourself and knowing your trigger points will help you to know when your anger is coming. Because normally your anger is coming and you know it. So I think knowing yourself, and we are all, as we are all grown-up adults, is knowing yourself. And the other thing was that deep breath. I think one of the recommendations as well is sometimes if you know taking a deep breath is not good, it doesn't work for you. Sometimes leaving that area or going for a walk sometimes means it's even easier for you. Just leave and go for a walk and then come back and then you can control and say what you have to say. I think what I also like to say is that anger it's not a bad emotion. It's because it's a natural emotion. What it is misdirected anger, and anger that is uncontrollable, that leads to uncontrollable reactions from yourself is what is certainly not good. Because to be angry means that there is something that has upset you, but it is not being controlled and lashing out verbally or physically uncontrollably is what is not good. Because when you don't have control, you don't have any control over how you react. So, but with that said, any contributions, questions that people would like to add? Because we know we've said quite a lot. Okay, so the person raising their hand, we can give them the...
Yes. Hi, so I wanted to ask, I definitely think you're spot on in terms of the frustration that builds up with managing your workload and looking after others can definitely lead to anger or just plain exhaustion. I guess when you have your outburst, what's the best way, or do you have any advice on how to resolve conflict following, an outburst or some anger that you may exert on other people around you?
Well, I guess what I would say is that once you've unleashed that anger, I guess the outburst has happened already, and you've had the time to reflect, which is it's very important. I said you should reflect before you react. Now you've reacted and you're now reflecting. What I would say is if you reflect after you've reacted and you realize that actually what the outburst was not justified, the best thing to do then is to actually go to your partner or go to the person and apologize for your outburst and actually tell them why you were that angry. Because I'm hoping that by that time you've reflected and you know why you're angry. You probably realize that your anger was probably in excess. So it's easy then to go back and say and apologize for that. And actually have a chat to tell them why you're angry, what your expectations are. Because sometimes it's because you want something, you've not communicated that properly to them. And so you're frustrated because you think they don't understand you. So it is time then to sit down. And by that time, you yourself must know Why were you angry? What was the underlying situation? And it's that underlying situation that you want to communicate to your partner so that he knows what is driving that anger between and what you expect from your partner. Yeah. But more importantly, do apologize when you find out that actually I've overreacted now, and it's maybe you're angry from something completely uncorrelated. So first thing, apologize and then discuss it calmly.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I have a comment. Okay, yeah, I mean, so thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think you're very much on point about how you react when you get angry. And it's just interesting actually also trying to correlate it with the Bible. And clearly the Bible recognizes that you can also be angry, but it says, do not sin when you get angry. And I think there's something about don't let the sun go down. So yes, to apologize is quite key. I think also the partner also has a part to play, because when you're spending time together, and I think it was Femi sometime in one of his podcasts where he talked about, I think it was, for some reason you come to mind and you talk about, the love language. Now, the partner also needs to recognize that a husband or the spouse recognize that the trigger point, because after you spend some time, I think it will be quite foolish not to recognize the trigger points for your spouse's anger and to try to do something about it. So in as much as the individual is trying to do their best or try to deal with the situation, I think the spouse also has a part to play in avoiding hitting on those trigger points, and also recognizing that when one party is angry, the other one needs to be calm, because sometimes, both start going at each other. So I guess what I'm saying again is that, because you're indoors and you're with your spouse, I think it's important to have that discussion with the spouse, that they need to understand that we can't both be angry. I think this period is also a learning period for us all, because it doesn't matter how old or how mature or experienced you are, and as you said, you've got to recognize that this thing is coming, this rage is coming down, and either one party runs or the other runs away, or exits the situation.
Go for a stroll.
Yeah, So, or if you're that way inclined, get a punching bag in your house and go and hit a punching bag. So yes, thank you.
Please.
No. You shouldn't do that. I think the speaker should take note of that comment as well.
But thank you very much, sir, for that. I think that's a powerful point as well. Is in any relationship, certainly marriage relationships and any relationship, sometimes we have a responsibility to also help others by knowing their trigger points and trying to avoid them, or when trying to avoid those trigger points, because sometimes some of us can be quite sometimes we use people's trigger points against them as well, fairly sometimes, by knowing that sometimes this is the right time to stop and waiting for a better time to have certain discussions. But sometimes we keep pressing and pressing and pressing, and then we both get into an argument. So sometimes it's important to realize that there are two people, it takes two to argue sometimes. And while the other person, yes, is angry sometimes, we should try not to raise the volume by getting into it and making it worse. So the other person too can help by diffusing the situation as well. But there's been a good question here, I think, which for you, Madam Speaker, or someone else can contribute to when we get to it, is, I feel these strategies may work for anger at a low level. What do you recommend to someone who is really struggling to control their anger?
If somebody really have a bad anger issue, I would recommend them seeing a counselor, because then it would then you'll be able to help them identify the source of their anger. Because sometimes, like I told you, some actions are learned actions. They grow up, say like some people grow up in a culture where beating your wife or having a fight over things, slapping each other, regardless, it might not even be their wife, it could be your husband or your children or people around you. They resolve issue in a physical way, or there are things that has shaped the way they react, and they think that's the answer to it. And I would strongly suggest that such people should seek counseling, because when you work with the counselor, then they can help you identify what the problem is. They can help you identify the best way to manage that anger problem. And it could be anything in terms of, talking to you today, I've just kind of skimmed and tried to summarize things, but really and truly, you're right. That kind of person will probably need a tailored solution to their problem, which will be based on conversation with them. Our sessions with our counselor.
Thank you. Okay. So that was helpful. If there's no questions or any other comments for now, should we progress to the... Okay, a follow-up question. Are there any voluntary organizations that can help during this lockdown? Bearing in mind money may be an issue, or the issue triggering the anger problem. It would be nice to get signposting. I don't know if you have any, or if anyone on the call as well has anyone on the call, because we're all here to share. If anybody knows any as well, feel free to put them in the chat box. But I don't know, Madam Speaker, if you know any as well. But anyone...
I can always, one of the things we can send out after this, I can always send out information on how do I call it, people who help with anger management, or there's so many. This is actually now quite a national issue, and the government is kind of mindful that things are happening, and there's so many organizations where you can phone up and to help with the anger issue, knowing that. And if money is the root of it, like we said, one of the sessions we're going to cover, possibly next week, will be really, how do you make your money stretch? I am conscious that most problems in their homes are probably due to financial limitations. And so if we talk to each other about how to make the limited amount of money you have stretch, and how to not make money an issue within your relationship, that might help as well.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I'm conscious of time, because we did say 6 to 5. Do you have, was there any other slides, or is it for questions and comments left? Yes. Did you have any other, can we go to the next slide? I'm conscious of time.
No, I think I've gone through all my slides, at least the ones that I want to share with you today.
Okay. So with that said, it's been a very, so any more questions, comments?
Comments?
Yeah.
Liz Algernon, is it okay to speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to assume the majority of people on this line are Christians or community of believers. Very good point on seeing therapists or seeing counselors. But I also know that when you go to a counselor, most of the time they will start you off with whether you want help, because before you go to a counselor for help, they want you to admit that you want to be helped. And so, yeah, and so as Christians, we have this resource. I'm sure if you look through the book of Proverbs alone, there are so many things. From my own personal experience, there are times where all I used to say to myself was, anger lies in the bosom of fools. And that's just because the Bible said so.
Yes.
And so every time I want to get angry or I am angry, I am prompted by that word just because somehow I spotted it in the Bible, and I use that to correct or kind of nudge myself from time to time. Okay, you're either admitting that you're a fool, or you don't want to get help, or you don't want to do anything about it. So as much as it is very good, thumbs up to see the counselor, get help however you can. You know, I'm sure there's so many Christian counselors out there, but then I think it's also important that we familiarize ourselves with what does the Bible say about this thing, because the Bible pretty much covers everything. Even in the Bible, it tells us be angry or sin not. So there is a provision for it. The Bible acknowledges that you can get angry because there's this thing in us called flesh. That human element will let us get angry. But then how to manage it, we can get all the help from there. And that's just my 2 cents on anger.
Thank you. Yes, that is true. The Bible, it's amazing how many verses we have in the Bible on anger and actually how to deal with it, which is one of the things I said to you about. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. That is the key, and which is it translates in the circular world as well, which is saying stop, pause, think before you act, which is the same thing. And so, like you said, one of the things we could do to after this is that we can send out all the biblical verses that speaks about anger and why it's not good to be angry. At the same time, what you do when you're angry. So that could be something that we will send out to everybody or that online today. And at the same time, obviously put out, like you said, like Liz said, there are Christian counselors, but I just want to be mindful that not everybody will, some people will say, well, what about other things? So we can have the Christian one and the secular version, but what you will find is that it is all actually the same thing, based on the same thing that says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I take it there's no one else raising their hands or asking questions. Okay. Thank you. So is that, Madam Speaker, is that is it okay to wrap this up, or did you have any?
Yes, it is okay. I mean, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. We do recognize the challenges you're all going through during this period. We are available for you to call. We are a big family of children of God. We are all here to help each other and support each other. So if all you need is a listening here or somebody you can even talk to say, this is what I'm going through, these are the challenges I'm facing, please do feel free to call. It is going to be completely confidential. And I hope that this session has been helpful to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I believe we can make, can we make the recordings or the slides available for those who want them?
Yes, we can.
Okay, we can, so we can make that. So if you want it, just put it. But please, we also want you to, let us know. Yes, we want you to let us know if you have any feedback or if there's any topics you would also like us to cover. So do let us know any feedback. Do share, put it on the WhatsApp group or respond to this. It will be available on Facebook because we're recording it, so it'll be available on our Facebook page. You can go there and view it. On our Facebook page as well, feel free to put comments, feedbacks, or any other topics you'd like us to cover. But this is our first. Also, let us know if this timing works for everyone. If this timing works and is perfect, let us know. If you feel there are more people, there's a better time, let us know. So at this point, this is really the early stages. We just want to know that, let you know that we understand that these are issues to cover, that as a family, we just want to make sure that we're supporting each other and covering these topics. And then we just want to find a time and an avenue that works for everyone. So if we don't head back, we can continue with this time as well. And if there's any topic you want us to do, let us know. But thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you to the church, pastor and everyone as well for making this platform available to us. Thank you. God bless. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.